ask you a question. I'm going to ask you two questions. Do you have the intelligence to recognize a complex lie? And do you have the audacity to stand in the face of the liars and call them on it? I got a couple examples that are pretty obvious, but all this stuff I do talking about the government and how most of their laws and rules and everything are bullshit. You don't have to pay income tax. You don't have to have a driver's license. This stuff is all based around lies. But of course, the people lying to you are the government. So if you trust the government and you go to them and say, I don't need a driver's license, I don't need to pay income tax, they're going to lie to you and say, yes, you do. And if you don't have the courage to insist, no, you don't, and you say, I thought I didn't, but I guess this judge just told me I do, so I guess he's a judge, you should know. Then you're going to lose. And the lie will continue to steal from you. Okay, couple examples. This one's a funny one. Of course, when I tell it, it's probably not going to be that funny, but there's an old Monty Python sketch where this guy goes into a pet shop with a parrot, a dead parrot. If you look on YouTube, just look for dead parrot. You'll probably find it. And he's like, I want to return this bird. You sold me a dead parrot. And the pet shop owner's just like, he's not dead, he's sleeping. And they just go back and forth, on and on and on. He's not dead, he's sleeping. No, he's dead, look at him. You can't wake him up. And he's like banging him against the counter. He's dead. No, he's just a heavy sleeper. Somebody's lying to him, and he has the courage to stand there and say, you're a fucking liar. I want my money back. Now imagine he went to return this bird, and the pet shop owner said, oh, he's not dead, he's just sleeping. And imagine the guy said, oh, I didn't know birds could sleep like that. Okay. And he left. He would have been fooled by a lie, and he would have lost, right? This is what the government does to us all day. Part of what made me think about this morning, aside from last night, I was explaining to someone about the driver's license and the income tax. This morning I saw an ad for silver coins. They were Mexican Libertads. I'd been looking for those because I'm down here in Mexico and I haven't been able. There's a couple banks that let you buy a couple coins at a time, but they don't always have them in stock. So, and I wanted to buy a lot of them, 10, 20, and there's nowhere to get them. So I'm scrolling down Facebook, and of course, hey, Libertads for sale. And they were like $25 for 1 ounce coins, which is like, normally they go for like 40, and I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Then I scroll down and I see the US coins, and they're going for $10, and those are usually going for like, right now, probably like 30 something, 35. And I'm like, what gives? And like the site looked kind of legit, and you know, order 3, get free shipping, like all kinds of like promos and deals, and then they had all kinds of other coins and shit. And then I realized they have like a lot of like really shitty looking coins that like, you know, these custom coins and everything. And I'd never heard of this shop, so I'm like, what is this place? So I scroll down, I'm looking for an address. Where are they based out of? Doesn't say anywhere. They accept PayPal. Oh, well, that's cool, because I trust PayPal. but where are they shipping these things from? Who is this company? I go back to their Facebook page and I look at their profile. They've got 3 posts. One of them is the coins. The one before that, they were selling some kind of a hoodie. And the one before that was a picture of a girl, like a profile picture. Not really legitimate, right? But the website looks legit. Then I keep going through the website, and I'm like, this has to be like a Chinese thing, right? Because that's usually how they do their shit. Not to be racist. So I start looking through the website, and I'm like, oh, shipping. What does it say for shipping? DHL and 4PX. 4PX is a Chinese shipping company. So that means they're being shipped from China. Okay, well, it's PayPal, right? I trust PayPal, so I could order from this site, and, like, if they don't send me what they say they're going to send me, I could just go to PayPal and they'll refund my money, right? Well, here's the thing. I bought something on a site like this. It was like, I don't know, it was like a little camera stand thing for like $20. And I used PayPal. And they shipped it to me, some really, really slow shipment method. I got it like 2 months later. It wasn't what I ordered. It was a cheap little plastic piece of shit that probably cost them 10 cents. It was like a cell phone stand or something, right? It was literally like a piece of plastic. And so I was like, what the fuck? So I go back and I message them, and they said, oh, we accidentally sent you the wrong thing. That's a lie. This didn't happen on accident. Because if it happened on accident, they would have offered to, like, oh, we'll send you the real product. Instead, they offered a partial refund. That's a scam. It's a complicated scam, right? It's like, oh, well, it's possible. I mean, people do send the wrong products sometimes. But when they send the wrong products, they offer to rectify the situation. They told me if I sent it back to them, I'm not going to pay like $10, $20 in shipping to send this back to them. See, when they ship a ton of things, they get a discount. But when I have to ship it back, they didn't offer me a return label. They knew I wasn't going to ship it back. So I went to PayPal. Because I trust PayPal, more or less. And I said, yeah, these guys are trying to scam me and give me my money back. They said, okay, we'll contact the seller. They contact the seller. The seller says, oh, well, they offered you a partial refund. Or they said you can send it back and get a refund. And I told them the whole story, and I said, look, this is a fucking scam. I'm not going to send it back. They're going to say, oh, we received it, but the box was empty. You know, they can say whatever they want. You know, like the whole, like, oh, yeah, there was a package. It was delivered, it weighed 30 pounds, but it was full of bricks. Right? You ever hear about somebody, like, buying a PlayStation, like, you know, off of Craigslist right after the launch, and like, oh, yeah, I bought the PlayStation, then I got home and I opened it up, and it was just an empty box of bricks in it. That's the kind of shit they're pulling. And if you don't just put your foot down and say, hey, I'm not going to stand for this shit, this is a scam, give me my refund, and they gave me the refund. The government works the same way. I know it seems like I went off on a tangent right there, but I wanted to use these examples because they're more obvious, right? We're used to seeing people lying to us in public, like, oh, yeah, you know, yeah, I got some amazing deal over here. No, you're full of shit. Or you got people who, like, cause a car accident. My light was green. It was your light that was red. They lie about little things like that. When the government does it, we're supposed to trust the government. I mean, the government, like, oh, we got to trust the judges, right? The judges know more about the law than we do. The judges went to law school. The lawyers, the prosecutors, everybody went to law school. They know so much more about this than I do. Imagine if that guy in China that tried to rip me off, imagine if he had said, oh no, I have a license and I went to trade school, and I know that means something totally different, but like I went to like school on how to do international business and blah 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 blah, and I have certificates and I have a PhD and this and that, and I'm government certified and all this. And then I went to PayPal. Like, do you think that would have any impact on me recognizing, hey, this is a scam? Probably not. Like, I know I just got scammed. Now, here's the thing. When you're like in court, or you're like getting letters from the IRS, or you're talking to a cop and he says, oh, you need to have a license. And they start talking about laws, and you have to do this and you have to do that. That's what the law is. You don't know the laws because you didn't read all the laws. There's millions of them that you'd never be able to go back and catch up. What do you have to do? You have to take their advice, right? You have to take their word for it. So what do? You have to learn the laws. So when they tell you a lie, you throw it back in their face and say that's not true. And I've done this before, and they do this all the time because they don't know the fucking laws. The police don't know the laws. The judges know the laws, but they also know the scam. They also know their job is to bring in as much money as possible. Now, I get it. A lot of people want to trust the government, and I'm sure there's 500,000 elected positions in the United States. 500,000, 500,000 people are elected in the United States. I'm sure plenty of those are good people. But not all of those positions get to make the laws. For example, somebody who's elected chief of police. Not every city votes on chief of police. A lot of times they're appointed by the mayor. But that position alone, the chief of police works for the mayor. He doesn't work for the people. It's not a sheriff's office. It's a police office. They work for the mayor. They take orders from the mayor. If they do not follow the mayor's orders, they can be fired by the mayor. They don't write the laws. They're ordered by the mayor to enforce the laws. The city creates ordinances. The state creates state laws. They're ordered to enforce all of those laws, and there's nothing they can do about it. So even if they're good people, they're still enforcing bad laws. The number of everything else, right? The school board. You might have like some really great guy who's like, oh yeah, I really care about the kids and I want to spend money, practically and whatever. Like I want to improve the education system and all this stuff, and he's on the school board. He doesn't have any power to do that. I mean, sure, he can prevent the board from doing some like excessive spending and something, but he doesn't get to control the curriculum. That comes from the Department of Education. That comes from like a handful of people in Washington, D.C. So even if they're not in on the lie, even if they're not in on the scam, their hands are tied. And I'll give you some examples, some real examples with police and judges. I had a cop tell me one time that if I didn't identify myself, he would arrest me for failure to identify. And I said, can you do that? And he said, yes. I didn't know. So I just said, okay. I gave him my ID. I think I gave him my passport. Then I went home and I looked up failure to ID, and I looked up the law. And it says you can be charged with failure to ID if you fail to give your ID. If you fail to give your name and address, not an ID. You don't need to give an ID card. You need to give your name and your address. You can be charged with failure to ID if you have been arrested. And you can't be arrested unless you are charged with a crime. So now if I had known that law, and if I had thrown that back in his face and said, hey, look, you can't charge me with failure to ID unless I'm already under arrest for something. Do you have a crime that you're arresting me for? And if he said, yes, I have a crime I'm arresting you for, it's this, then I could say, okay, I'm under arrest. I reserve my right to remain silent. If I'm required to identify myself, here's my name and an address. That's all I'm required to give you. If I had known that at the time, and if things had gone that far, I didn't get arrested that time. Same thing all the time. You throw these things back at the cops. Tell them the law. Because they don't know it. I got stopped for not having license plates on a car one time. Cops said, well, you don't have license plates. You can't drive around without license plates. I said, actually, yeah, I can. And he was like, no, you can't. Why don't you have temporary plates? I told him I just bought the car. How am I supposed to have plates for it? I don't have plates for it yet. The state didn't give me plates. I have 30 days from the time I enter the state with this car. That's assuming it's a motor vehicle and I'm going to register it at all. I have 30 days before I have to have plates on this car, before I have to register the car. And then I have until they give me plates to put the plates on. And he was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess that's true. When did you buy the car? I'm not going to answer that. And then he was stuck. You throw their fucking lies in their faces, and they can't do anything. And I've done this with judges. But you have to understand what the law is. You have to understand the scam. Right? Imagine you're playing poker, right? And somebody's cheating, and you know they're cheating. You can't just say, oh, that guy's cheating. He keeps winning. He's cheating. I know this happens like in a million Western movies. You reach across the table, you pull his hand and flip it over, and he's got cards coming out of his sleeve. Now you've proven he's a cheater. Now everybody else understands he's a cheater. And usually what happens, and this all it takes to show their cards, to show that they're hiding cards in their sleeve, is to know the law and to throw it back in their face. And when they tell you something, say, no, that's a lie, that's not true. And you tell them the law. Sometimes that's all it takes. But you know what usually happens when you try to do this, especially in a court, when there's other people watching? They don't want everybody else to see that they're hiding cards in their sleeve. So what do? They say, I'm not playing poker with you. Get out of my court. Case dismissed. They don't want anything on record that you went in there saying, hey, this whole system's a lie and I don't need a driver's license. And I'm not going to pay these fines because your whole system is bullshit. You don't have the authority. They don't want that on record. So instead, they kick you out of the courtroom and dismiss your case. It's happened to me. That's why people ask me all the time, well, where's their court case where somebody won? There aren't many, and the ones that are there are vague. That's part of the scam. That's part of how they keep everybody in the dark. All right, guys. My point is just this. You have to learn to recognize a scam. You have to question everything that's put in front of you because the government is going to be one of the biggest scammers. And you have to have the courage to stand in their face and tell them what they're doing is a scam. And just say the right things to let everybody else know this is a scam, to prove that it's a scam, so that you don't get robbed by the people who were elected to protect our rights. I'll catch you guys later. Taxation is theft.